What's going on, guys? My name is Wade with Tech Daily. So I've had the LG V30 for about a week now as my daily driver, and I figured it was time for a full review. And the way I want to do this is I want to sort of go back and forth between things that I do like about this phone and things that I don't like, or things that maybe could have been done better. All in all, this is a good device for what you get. It's much more tame and mainstream than the V10 and V20 were, which I think might disappoint the people who really appreciated how unique those devices were. But personally, I like the direction LG went with this phone. I just wish that first off, they didn't completely butcher the launch. And in addition to that, I wish they would have released it sooner, because it could have been a really popular device and compete with any flagship on the market right now for the most part. But it sort of just fizzled into the crowded market without much hype, which is kind of unfortunate. But with all that being said, let's start out with the first thing I wasn't a huge fan of, and that's the screen. LG's POLED technology is just not as good as Samsung's AMOLED. That's not really an opinion, it's a fact, and that's really apparent on this device. At a glance, the screen does look good. Colors are relatively vibrant, blacks are pretty deep. If you just picked up this device without comparing it side by side to anything else, you can definitely say that it's a pretty good viewing experience. However, it still lacks the ability to show exceptional true color like the Note 8 or S8. And like we're seeing with the Pixel 2 XL, off-axis viewing is not great. The Pixel 2 XL and the V30 both have the same LG screen, so the blue color shift issues that are present on the Pixel are present here too. No one purposely looks at their phone tilted or off-axis. You look at your phone held straight up right in front of you, which I understand, and straight on everything is fine. But I think, like a lot of people have said, at this price point, with Samsung and Apple and even budget brands having great screens from every angle, LG's screen problems just shouldn't exist in 2017. Even though LG's screen technology isn't up to par, their build quality with the V30 is exceptional. I really like how the V30 looks and feels. It's a premium device made from all glass and metal with those mirrored edges, and even though it's surprisingly light, you know you're getting a top-notch phone when you hold it in your hand. The glass back can be particularly slippery though, so I went ahead and put on a matte black slick wrap skin, and if you want to skin for your own device, I'll leave a link down below in the video description, as well as a code for $5 off any order. Another thing LG didn't do a great job with on the V30, which we also saw on the G6, is the front-facing camera. I don't really understand how LG still can't include a good front-facing camera on their phones, but for whatever reason, it's just not there. Picture quality is not great. You either get super washed out or lost in low light, and even though LG tries to sweeten up the deal with some filters and things, when you look at what else is out there for your selfies, there's just no comparison, and LG really needs to step it up. It's not unusable, but it's not my first, second, or third choice for a camera. On the other end of the spectrum, LG did an excellent job with improvements to their dual rear cameras on the V30. They upped their primary shooter to a 16 megapixel f1.6 lens, and as a standalone camera, just shooting completely untouched pictures, I don't think there's anything wrong. Colors overall look very natural and a bit more muted than something from Samsung. Not a bad thing at all. You lose some detail in low light and shadows, but I don't think you're going to be disappointed. What really makes the V30 stand out in the camera department though is the second wide-angle lens. Rather than go with a telephoto lens for zoom and portrait shots like the iPhone and Note 8, LG stuck on a 120 degree f1.9 aperture wide-angle camera instead. And while the V20 and G6 suffered from some fisheye distortion and graininess, I think the V30's wide-angle shots do look a bit better overall. But besides that, I really think that, at least for my needs, I found it much more useful having a wide-angle lens over a zoom lens as a secondary shooter. Additionally, you have a lot of flexibility with your camera options, including a pretty robust manual mode, which is great. And all in all, is this the absolute best camera on a phone right now? No, but it's still great, and having the wide-angle lens really differentiates it from the competition. Something that also differentiates the V30 from other Android phones is the software experience. I kind of had a difficult time putting this down as a negative or a positive because it sort of depends on your personal preference. Spec-wise, everything is there. You're getting all of 2017's latest internals, so the phone is solid in day-to-day use and very snappy, and that's a positive. However, a lot of people don't like LG's Android UI, which I can understand. You can add a launcher if you want, which is what I usually do, and change up the skin a bit, but you just aren't getting a stock Android experience, especially from Verizon, which is where this phone is from, with all their garbage pre-installed apps and bloatware. And beyond that, LG's Android updates are so painfully slow. We probably won't see Android 8.0 Oreo on this device for months, honestly, and that's really a shame. One of the biggest positives of this device has to be the headphone jack. I did an entire video dedicated to this, which I'll link on screen, but the V30's headphone jack is a hi-fi quad DAC, which means the listening experience on this device is unlike any other. You can use professional grade headphones and get an audiophile quality listening listening experience right from your smartphone. And that's just unmatched by any other device out there. It's something LG should be advertising the heck out of, but for whatever reason, they just aren't, which is sort of sad to see. But on the other side of things, the single downward-facing external speaker is a disappointment. I'm the kind of person who likes to watch a video with the audio coming directly from my phone, and the audio coming from this little guy is just not great, especially considering what else is out there on other devices. And one final point I want to make that's sort of in the neutral category, battery life was more or less just fine on this phone. The 3300 milliamp hour battery made it through the day, every day, with moderate use. So should the LG V30 be your next smartphone? Well, the two features in particular that separate this device from any other are the wide-angle rear camera and the quad DAC headphone jack. Everything else about this phone, I would say, is your average Android smartphone experience, with maybe a less than average front camera. At a flagship price, I don't hate the V30, and I think most people will be happy with this device. However, my recommendation is to wait a bit on this phone, because LG devices have crazy depreciation. While this phone retails for $800, you'll be able to get this phone for $500 or $600 from places like Swappa and eBay very soon, and maybe even cheaper. And at those prices, this device is an excellent buy. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know if any of you guys plan on picking up the V30 anytime soon. Also, be sure to follow Tech Daily on Twitter and subscribe to the Tech Daily YouTube channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys later.